Mars was a planet of extremes, its barren red landscape stretching endlessly under a sky tinged with rust. The orbital station above shimmered faintly, a fragile sentinel watching over the first human settlers who had dared to make this alien world their temporary home. Inside the station, a peculiar tension simmered, one that had nothing to do with oxygen levels or solar panel calibrations. It was a bet, unlike anything the interplanetary community had ever witnessed. "Pay for the poorest shelter on Mars, and I'll give you the orbital city," the manager had declared weeks ago, his voice broadcast to the settlers and engineers alike. Laughter had erupted. Everyone thought it was absurd. The orbital city, a marvel of human engineering orbiting high above Mars, symbolized the pinnacle of survival and luxury in a hostile environment. Yet, among the crew, one engineer saw opportunity, possibility, a chance to rewrite the rules of life on Mars. While others scoffed at the words, he began calculating, planning, considering every variable from resource allocation to radiation exposure. The orbital city was not just a structure. It was an ecosystem, self-sustaining and complex, requiring precise energy distribution, water recycling, and artificial gravity modulation. To acquire it, one had to think far beyond conventional strategies, to bend the absurdity of the challenge into a path of calculated risk. That engineer, now at the center of the attention, had spent weeks analyzing every aspect of Mars's storms, radiation levels, and orbital mechanics, preparing for a maneuver that most considered impossible. Outside, the Martian dust storms raged, the planet's thin atmosphere whipping fine particles into blinding clouds, a natural barrier that seemed to echo the incredulity of the crew below. The engineer had spent countless hours in the orbital observation deck, mapping trajectories and predicting the station's response to each environmental variable. NASA's data streams were clear but limited. No amount of satellite observation could account for the micro-variations in wind and radiation at a precise Martian coordinate. The manager's challenge was audacious, a provocation wrapped in jest, yet the engineer treated it with meticulous seriousness. His AI assistant ran simulations of orbital insertion, calculating gravitational assists, energy outputs, and structural stresses. Every decimal mattered. The poorest shelter on Mars, a modest dome with minimal life support, was more than a simple structure. It was a test of ingenuity, resource management, and psychological endurance. If he succeeded, the orbital city would become accessible not through bureaucratic channels, not through corporate negotiation, but by the audacity of one human mind daring to turn a joke into reality. Other crew members watched skeptically, unaware of the detailed risk assessments being made, the simulations testing hundreds of scenarios per second, weighing the cost of failure against the reward. Outside, the planet's dusty horizon shimmered under the fading Martian sun, casting long, surreal shadows that hinted at the challenges ahead. To move from the shelter to the orbital city, the engineer had to coordinate drones, establish precise trajectories, and account for every atmospheric anomaly. Even minor miscalculations could result in catastrophic failure, a lesson the crew had already learned with minor orbital mishaps months before. The engineering bay became the nerve center for the operation. Panels of blinking lights, holographic displays, and data streams from Mars's surface and orbit intertwined into a complex tapestry of information. The engineer studied the feeds, annotating points of interest, marking deviations, and identifying safe windows of operation. Every Martian storm had its pattern, its rhythm, its predictable and unpredictable moments, and he had spent years learning to read them like a musician reads sheet music. The poorest shelter, modest as it was, had structural vulnerabilities that required reinforcement before any orbital maneuver could be attempted. Materials had to be reinforced, conduits shielded, and atmospheric regulators optimized to survive the journey and potential pressure changes. The engineer's hands moved swiftly, methodically, adjusting robotic arms, configuring drones, and ensuring that each component of the operation was synchronized with extreme precision. Communication to Earth remained delayed, a frustrating but familiar limitation, so all decisions had to be made autonomously. Risk assessments, simulations, and contingency plans were layered upon one another in real-time analysis. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew watched, part of them horrified, part of them fascinated. What began as a bet now felt like an unprecedented experiment, one that could redefine human capability on Mars and in orbit. The orbital city, with its gleaming modules and artificial gravity loops, hovered above like a distant dream, its accessibility contingent not on approval or authority, but on skill, daring, and perhaps a little madness. The stakes were monumental: survival, prestige, and the validation of ingenuity against the seemingly impossible. The Martian environment offered no comfort for mistakes. Dust storms could erode sensors, high radiation bursts could fry circuits, and the thin atmosphere offered no margin for error. Every calculation the engineer performed accounted for these variables, incorporating redundancy into every system. He studied the thermal differentials that could cause expansion and contraction in structural joints, the potential electromagnetic interference from solar flares, and the microgravity effects on fuel dispersal for propulsion systems. Even the seemingly mundane tasks, like calculating the alignment of solar panels or the trajectory of tethered drones, carried the weight of life and death consequences. As he moved through the operational bay, his mind was a whirlwind of probabilities, contingencies, and simulations. The rest of the crew began to understand that the bet, as insane as it seemed, was now a mission, a challenge that could elevate humanity's presence on Mars from survival to mastery. Outside, the dusty horizon shifted as the storms began to recede, revealing glimpses of the orbital city above. It shimmered like a beacon, reflecting the sunlight and human ambition, a promise of what could be achieved when imagination and determination collided. The engineer's eyes, focused and unwavering, tracked every variable, every anomaly, every potential failure point. He knew that once action began, the window of opportunity would be narrow, measured in minutes, and every second would count toward either triumph or disaster. The moment of action had arrived. The engineer stood in the control center, surrounded by the hum of machinery and the faint red glow from the viewport. Every calculation he had made over the past weeks, every simulation run on the AI systems, every contingency plan now converged into a single critical sequence. The poorest shelter, modest and unassuming, became the launching point for an audacious attempt to access the orbital city. Drones, tethered with precision, carried supplies and equipment into the thin Martian atmosphere, each movement calculated down to fractions of a meter. Sensors monitored air pressure, wind velocity, and structural vibrations in real time. The crew watched in tense silence, their previous skepticism replaced by a mix of awe and apprehension. Outside, the red dust swirled, the last vestiges of the storm-forming patterns that seemed almost orchestrated by the planet itself. The engineer's hands moved with unerring accuracy, coordinating multiple systems at once, ensuring that every action aligned with the predicted outcome. The orbital city above waited, silent and gleaming, a testament to human engineering and ambition. If this sequence succeeded, it would demonstrate that even the most improbable challenge could be transformed into reality with skill, determination, and daring. The first drone successfully reached orbit, its sensors transmitting live feedback. Every micro-adjustment, every minor correction was critical. A single misalignment could send the operation into chaos. Yet, the engineer moved with calm precision, guided by experience, intuition, and the relentless drive to prove that the bet was more than a provocation. It was an opportunity to redefine what humans could achieve on Mars. As the drone docked with the orbital city, the crew erupted in cautious celebration, understanding that this was more than a technical success. It was a triumph of human ingenuity against overwhelming odds. The following hours were a whirlwind of activity. The engineer supervised the transfer of modules, carefully connecting life support systems, energy conduits, and communication arrays. Every connection required validation, every system check confirmed twice, with backup contingencies ready to deploy at a moment's notice. The Martian gravity, while weak, still posed challenges for movement and stability, and the orbital city's rotation added subtle complications in synchronization. Yet, the operation progressed flawlessly, the culmination of weeks of planning and hundreds of simulations executed in real conditions. The crew, once skeptical, now participated fully, their trust in the engineer absolute. Outside, the red Martian landscape stretched endlessly, silent witness to the audacity unfolding above. The orbital city, now partially connected to the shelter, gleamed as a symbol of possibility, of ambition realized through courage, knowledge, and relentless determination. The engineer paused briefly, reflecting on the enormity of the moment. Humanity had dared to push boundaries, to challenge absurdity, and to achieve what seemed impossible. Yet, the operation was more than just a technical victory. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of isolation, danger, and the unknown. Communication to Earth, delayed as always, would soon relay images and data of the successful docking, inspiring generations of scientists, engineers, and dreamers. Every metric monitored, every parameter validated, was proof that audacity combined with expertise could bend even the harshest environment to human ingenuity. As the sun dipped below the Martian horizon, shadows stretched across the barren landscape, the red dust settling into gentle dunes. The orbital city now stood partially accessible, its modules integrated with the shelter below, a living laboratory of survival and ambition. The engineer continued final calibrations, ensuring that all systems were fully operational, from life support to energy distribution, from communication arrays to artificial gravity modules. The crew moved with renewed confidence, aware that the actions of one individual had altered the possibilities for all. The manager, initially mocking the bet, now documented every detail meticulously, understanding that history was being written in real time. This was more than a human achievement. It was proof that structured risk, combined with preparation and insight, could redefine the limits of exploration. Outside, the Martian winds whispered through the canyons, carrying particles of dust that glimmered under the fading sunlight. The orbital city, once a distant dream, now stood partially tangible, reachable through courage, ingenuity, and a willingness to embrace the impossible. The engineer reflected quietly, aware that today had changed the trajectory of human settlement on Mars forever. The bet, the mockery, the audacity, it all culminated in this moment of achievement. A reminder that in the harshest environments, human creativity and determination could carve pathways where none seemed possible. The final hours of the operation brought both reflection and anticipation. The crew gathered to review data, analyze system performance, and ensure redundancy for all critical modules. Every sensor reading, every energy output, every life support metric was catalogued and verified. The engineer, ever meticulous, noted anomalies, however minor, and recalibrated systems to account for environmental shifts. Outside, Mars remained silent and imposing, its red plains stretching toward the horizon, indifferent yet awe-inspiring. The success of the operation was not just in completing the connection between the poorest shelter and the orbital city. It was in proving that with ingenuity, preparation, and courage, humans could confront the challenges of alien environments and emerge victorious. The orbital city's lights reflected off the Martian dust, creating a surreal, almost ethereal glow, a symbol of human achievement against impossible odds. The engineer knew that today would be remembered not just as a technical feat, but as a narrative of audacity, vision, and the relentless pursuit of possibility. The crew, once doubtful, now looked to the future with anticipation, understanding that the boundaries of exploration had shifted, and that what was once impossible could now be realized through calculated risk, knowledge, and unyielding determination. Humanity had taken one more step toward mastering life beyond Earth, and the actions of one individual had proven that the audacity to dream could indeed reshape reality.